Good morning crafters, and welcome to day one of the Ray's Room summer stitch along for the crochet bag. Today we're going to look at row 1 of the square, so here, and we're going to look at sewing in ends, and we're going to make 18 of those. So let's get going. I think I'll go with this one, which will probably be a bit easier for you to see. So to start off with, we're going to put a slip knot on our hook, like so. Going to make it the size that we want it to be. And then to start off with, we're going to chain 4 to create the middle circle that we're going to crochet into. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to join that together with a slip stitch to make it into a little circle to do our stitches into. So you're just going to do that slip stitch through the first chain that you created, like so. So now we've got this circle that we can crochet into. From here, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And each of these little clusters are made up of trebles that haven't been worked in full. So I've started the first half of the treble and then done the next one, the first half of the next one, the first half of the next one, and then completed all 3 of them together to create a cluster of trebles. So to start that, you want a chain of 2, and then we're going to do 2 of those trebles that are only half worked for this first cluster. So we're going to work half a treble like that, and instead of finishing off the treble, we're going to yarn over, put our hook through the middle of the circle, hook that through, yarn over and pull through 2 again, so that we have 3 loops on our hook. And then from there, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. So that's how we do the first one. And I like to just pull them back a little bit so they bunch up together. From here, we're going to do a chain of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go back into that middle circle for the second of our cluster of 3 trebles. So we're going to yarn over, put our hook into the middle of the circle, hook the yarn, pull it up to the front, so we've got 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Now instead of finishing off that treble, we're going to go in for another treble. So yarn over, put our hook into the middle of the circle, hook the yarn through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2. So now we've got 3 loops on our hook, and then the last one, yarn over, pop our hook into the middle, hook the yarn and pull it through to the front, yarn over and pull through 2. Now we've got this. We're going to yarn over and pull through all of the loops that are on our hook, and that's going to create the second of our cluster of trebles. So the first one was slightly different because we did that one with a chain of 2, which acted as the first half of a treble, and then did the other 2 next to it to bring it together. So this one is acting as 3 trebles that have been clustered together. The rest of them, so we've done that one, that was our first one. Our next one is a complete one with all worked in trebles. We're just going to do another 2 of those, so 1 here and 1 here. So we've got all 4 of the little clusters of the cross. So from here, we're going to do another chain of 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to yarn over, going to pop our hook into the middle of the circle, hook the yarn and pull it through to the front, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, put our hook into the middle of the circle, hook the yarn, pull it through to the front, yarn over, pull through 2, and the same again. And then when we're at this point, we can yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops that are on our hook. And as always, I like to just pull those back a little bit so that they're in line with where I want them to be. So we've got these 3 clusters. Now we just want 1 more to complete the round. Before we do it, we need to put in another chain of 3, which is going to give us our corner. So you've got a chain of 3 there for a corner, chain of 3 there for a corner. we need one here. Then we're going to go in with our last cluster of trebles that are only worked halfway. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 of those loops on our hook. Then we can do our last chain of 3 to put our last corner in, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first cluster of 3 that we did. So if you look at it from the top, that would be going into this stitch here. So you've got chain 1 and 2, which we did as our starting chain, and then that one that's sort of directly on the top of your cluster, that's the one we're going to slip stitch into. So you're going to go under there, hook the yarn, pull it through to the front and through the loop that's on your hook. So you have then got this. At this point, you can cut your yarn and pull it through the loop that's on your hook. Pull that nice and tight, and that's that round completed. And you can start to sew in your ends at this point if you wanted to. I often wait until row 2 so that there's a little bit more to stitch into, but if you want to get your ends sewn in on this round, I'll show you that now. So I'm just going to turn it over so I've got the back of my work. I'm going to thread that one, so I'm doing the first end, which is already quite close to this sort of collection of stitches, and I'm going to just go through there. You can make this step a little bit quicker by crocheting over your tail end at that point. I would still sew the ends in, but it just means you've got one less stitch to do. So I'm going to pull that through, and then we're going to go back again, but miss a thread so it catches on something. Go back through there, and then I normally do 3 times. So now obviously you might already have your own way of sewing in your ends, so you don't have to follow this if you don't want to. But I wanted to give an instruction there for anybody who would like a little demo on sewing in ends, or is just curious to see how I sew in my ends. So there's that one. And then this one here, I might often sew it in to the next row, but if you wanted to get all of your ends sewn in at this point, you could do that. So I'm going to thread that one onto there. And what I would do to sew this end in is bring it down through my stitches and come back to this sort of middle point where there's plenty of sort of bulk to sew it into. Alternatively, like I say, I would do it up here once I've got the next row in. So go back again, might go over there. There's no real rule to this. I just do what feels the most secure and the less likely to come back out again. So I like to use a relatively sharp darning needle so that I can get into the fibres of the yarn rather than just through the loops of the stitches, if that makes sense. So there's that. I'm going to cut that one as close as I can, like so. And there we have our first middle of one of our squares for our crochet bag squares. So as you can see, this is this little bit here. So now all you need to do is make another 17 of those. So in total, if you're going to make this bag with this many squares, you're going to want 18 of these little row 1s. So if you go away and do that, then I'll see you back here tomorrow. We'll get started on row 2. The stitch sequence for this row 1 will be posted in the comments for you. See you tomorrow.